Hi everybody, I just wanted to make, not that anybody actually watches this, but I just wanted to make some points about what's going on in Egypt. I'm going to take some notes from my uh, past video, and in that I'm going to make a goal not to say a lot. I'm not going to be a Joe Gibbs in his press conference yesterday. So I just wanted to talk particularly on Mubarak's speech, President Mubarak of Egypt. There you go. Gotta watch that. He gave a speech yesterday, and I wanted to express my opinion and my views on the intent and the goal of that speech. My presentation loses credibility for a few reasons. One, I'm just doing a YouTube video. Two, if you know my background, I have no political background or formal education, so I can't drop some degrees or some trophies or a position in some organization on this opinion. Is just my opinion. But I just wanted to get this out there. First and foremost, his speech, Mubarak's speech that he delivered yesterday, I do not believe was intended to be addressed particularly to the people of Egypt. I believe Mubarak, though it seems like he's in some critical situation, and the media's portraying it that way, for the most part, it's important to realize that this man has managed a country, dictated, and ruthlessly dominated this country for the last 30 years. So he has experience in these type of situations. And maybe this is the biggest one so far, but 2 million people out of an 86 million population country is about 2.5%. So on a numbers game, it's an inconvenience, but it's not a majority. And it's not even a large portion of the population if you really get into the statistics of it. So it could be argued that his speech that he gave yesterday was to that other portion of the population, that's the moderates. The moderates are so critical. The moderates were critical in Martin Luther King's civil rights movement. When he gave the letters from Birmingham, he talked about one of the greatest struggles for the movement was the white moderate of America. And so it might seem to the outside observer, which I am an outside observer also, that Mubarak is in fact attempting to win over that moderate, that central, that undecided. I don't believe that's the case, because I don't believe that he's demonstrated in the last 30 years that he gives a good golly gosh darn what the hell the moderate, the extreme opposition, or his supporters feel. He's a dictator. I would say that his speech, in all probability, is directed towards American citizens. The American government, since this is kicked off, when it happened in Tunisia, they were like, oh yeah, that guy's bad. He's got to get out of there. All of a sudden it happens in Egypt. Oh, well, we hope the government can maintain stability. Oh, the government's stable. To like, this guy is doing some stuff that's getting some negative media attention. They tried to lock it down, but this is a new age, and they couldn't lock down the flow of information. So him cutting off the internet, the police brutality that was going on, the looters being caught and arrested and found out to be security forces out of uniform, that all kind of some bad publicity. So the American government, who is a shining example of moral something or the other in the world, found it increasingly difficult to support this guy, and they needed something. The reality is, this is complete speculation. I know you call it conspiracy theory. This is the essence of opinion. But America really needed something, because it was becoming more and more difficult for the American government to come out there and provide statements that supported the Mubarak dictatorship. So, and they couldn't, Barack Obama just gave a State of the Union talking about like, oh, yay, democracy movement, Tunisia, we support the people. Egypt jumps off. Joe Gibbs. Well, we're monitoring the situation. I don't know all the facts on the grounds. Look, folks. You know, I don't know all the details. That was pretty much the summary of his press conference yesterday. Hillary Clinton. If you want, check out the Daily Show on the 31st. They did a great compilation of clips from her from the 25th to the 31st. On the 25th, oh, we believe the Egyptian government is stable to the 31st. You know, we're calling on Mubarak to make some transitions immediately. You see the same thing with Obama. I think it's morally reprehensible that our government can be swayed so easily by what looks like what's going on, rather than having the ability to make a definitive stance based on some kind of moral ground. Maybe that's a stretch, but I think that every human being has the ability to determine between what's morally right, meaning what has a positive impact on human society development, and personally beneficial. What will immediately maintain my position stable? What will maintain the stability of my position? And unfortunately, I see our government, and it's not new. This is a tendency. But they have this tendency because the people have no expectations. Us, the American people, have no expectations of our government. We talk a lot of crap, but you know, we have no expectations because we continue to put the same people, Democrat or Republican. You know, in my opinion, the Democrats, they're the fake party of the people, and the Republicans are the party of the Democrats. So it's just one big old hoopla. So now this political system in America, who feels that it's okay to support Mubarak as long as their own citizenry, the US population, don't know that he's bad, because then it makes them look bad. You know, they're supposed to have this religious moral standard. So they need something. Here comes this speech. Mubarak starts off his speech bluntly by discrediting the activities that are going on the street. Quote, this is the first paragraph. You can find it on Guardian UK. So it's www.guardian.co.uk. I talk to you during critical times that are testing Egypt and its people, which could sweep them into the unknown. The country is passing through difficult times and tough experiences, which began with noble youths and citizens who practice their rights to peacefully demonstrate and protest, expressing their concerns and aspirations, but they were quickly exploited by those who sought to spread chaos and violence, confrontation, and to violate the constitutional legitimacy and to attack it. Close quote. It's important to remember that when the military arrested looters inside the Museum of Egypt, they were out of uniform security personnel. It's important to remember that the security forces, the military that had surrounded the square yesterday when protesters were moving in, when they were checking people's identities, they were ensuring two things. They weren't armed and that they weren't security forces trying to subvert the movement. And under that bubble of secure protection, it was a massive peaceful protest throughout the country. About 2 million people. But it's important to remember 2 million people are about 2.5% of the population. So though it's massive in numbers, it's not really massive on the scale of the country's demographic. And it's important. It's possible to see his speech as addressing that moderate, but I don't believe strictly to the American people. Because if the American government can continue to back this guy, it's irrelevant what the Egyptians think. And that is seen in the last 30 years, in the last 30 years of history, in which the American government has subverted democracy in this country by sustaining this man, providing him with $1.5 billion in security forces, so that when a situation like this arises, he'll have the means to quell it. You have this speech go on further, where he expresses what he feels. It's more like it's a statement. Quote, My primary responsibility now is security and independence of the nation to ensure a peaceful transfer of power in circumstances that protect Egypt and the Egyptians and allow handing over responsibility to whoever the people choose in the coming presidential election. 30 years as a dictator. 1 week. One statement, actually. This is the first statement about this appreciation for the democratic process. My primary responsibility now is security. The protesters have been peaceful. That was yesterday. Today, what did we see the advent of? Violence. Security for men, young men in particularly. Security forces out of uniform. In all probability, you know, we could say in all probability, I'm not an official news agency. I don't have to beat around the bush. We know that these are Mubarak supporters. These are security forces. These are guys who are on the payroll. This is why it's important for Americans to see the strategies that are used outside are used inside. So the increase of security forces are not for the protection from external forces, but from internal forces. This is why America, when they get a dictator, they give him money. When he's backed by America, he doesn't need a military to protect him from any external threats because he's backed by America. They're the only real external threat. But when he's backed by America and the people's voice is subsequently silenced and the will of the people is put into a little cage of a military force, emphasis internal security. There's less than 100,000 military personnel, but there's over 1.5 million security personnel. It's very important that America sees this because we have to look at our country, what's going on. There's about 300,000 people. That's about 1% of the population in the military. How many security forces are in ICE, the DEA, the ATF, local police forces, Homeland Security, and whatever other forces they have now that they do have? Customs. These are all security personnel. Not to mention that there's now a sub-level of security that is security forces. If you check out these little independent schools that used to be like get a tech job, now everything is criminal justice, security. Become a security, become a Homeland Security agent. So we're creating this branch of society that exists in Egypt that is completely dependent on providing security for the powers that be. And this is how those branches of society are used. Mubarak has promised, and unfortunately I can't provide you with the quote, and I'm not going to do the research to do it, you know, whatever, but has promised the security forces to double their pay if this is taken care of. You know, it's things to think about. I don't think America needs this type of activity, but America definitely needs to make some changes. And part of that starts with who we support.